Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so much for dropping by. So, Bruno Groening said to be connected to God, that is everything. He also said, God is everywhere. He said, God really is in everything. He said a little bit more in some, a little bit less in others. Bruno Groening said, God has everything we need. So when we combine all of these statements and really reflect on them, what we can notice is that according to Bruno Groening, God is everywhere and God is inside of us as well. So let's just start there. So if you're here at this gathering or listening to this video, I'm just going to assume that in some way, shape, or form, you're seeking something spiritual, and I am too. That's why that and we can argue about the different meanings of God, but what we're all after is something divine, something eternal. And so the question is where to find this. We're all looking for something. Some people might say God, some people might say enlightenment. But where to find this? Well, our friend Bruno Groening, he's not the first teacher, spiritual helper in history to say this, says that God is all around us and in us. Okay, so what we're looking for isn't very far. We don't have to look far for it. That's some good news. So first we're looking. Second, we identify what we're looking for. God, enlightenment, freedom, salvation. We all might have a different emphasis, but I would argue we're all looking for the same thing. Then, where to find it? Well, according to Bruno, it's not so far. Now here comes the next piece is so important to me. So Bruno said, to be connected to God, that is everything. And God has everything we need. He also said, what are we humans without God? I say nothing. Okay, so not only are we looking for God or salvation or peace but this one thing, what this thing we're looking for, it's the most important thing. To be connected to God, that is everything. And again, the German word Verbindung, which can be translated as connected, is also can be translated, has many meanings. Linked, united, joined, union, communion. So it's not just like, I sometimes think connection isn't quite strong enough a translation of what Bruno's talking about. But what is being talked about, according to Bruno Groening, it's everything. To have this one thing is to have everything. And Bruno said God has everything we need. Well, that's a radical statement. Most human beings, and I'm one of them, spend a lot of time looking for different things, trying to get needs met, trying to solve problems, trying to find happiness. Well, according to Bruno Groening, everything we're looking for, God has. And this also includes the solution to health challenges, which I'm very grateful to Bruno Groening for including that in his expression of what God is and what God can do for us. Many teachers don't. So we've recognized that there's a longing, that we have a goal. And we've recognized that it's not so far, this thing we're looking for. And then we can begin to recognize not only is it something we're looking for, it's everything we're looking for. And so then what to do, how to find it, how to have this everything. Well, Bruno Groening offers different pointers. He once said, maintain connection with the world above through trust. So having trust, having faith, that's one way to begin to have this thing. Maybe the most direct way, or the way we're used to as people have been looking at Bruno Groening's work, is through this practice of Einstellen, tuning in, focusing, attuning. I think attuning is actually my favorite translation of Einstellen. Attuning ourselves to that thing through observing our bodies with the will to absorb good energy for it. What are we attuning to? What are we absorbing? Bruno spoke of this thing he called Heilstrom. Strom. It's two German words combined together. Strom, current, frequency, wave, energy, electricity, electric power. Heil. Many, many translations of Heil. I invite everyone who's interested in this path to look up the German word Heil, and you'll see it has like 15 different definitions. About half of them have this very interesting connotation, this very interesting meaning of being whole, intact, sound, uninjured, unscathed. It also means medicinal, healing, divine, salvation. So my understanding is that, well, there's one more piece. Let me add to all that. So we observe our bodies and we take in this energy, this frequency, this power. Bruno also called it Sendung, transmission, broadcast, that gives us energy for life, that can heal the body, and can lead to salvation. It's one of the meanings of Heil. Salvation can lead to connection to God. It's one of the meanings of Heil. Divine can heal us. It's one of the meanings of Heil. Medicinal. And then there's all these other meanings of whole, intact. But what does it mean to be whole and intact? To be sound, uninjured? Well, Bruno Groening spoke about, he said, today is forever. That whoever lives in the, let's see if I can find the exact quote, whoever lives in the present is in forever. Huh. Today is forever. It is forever today. If you are in the present, it is always today for you. So I think that's part of wholeness, is being in the now. We spend so much of our time regretting the past and so much of our time yearning for the future. And that leaves us feeling discontent. And how could it not? We're yearning. We don't feel whole and complete. There's this sense of, oh, there's something we need that we don't have. That's more the future. And there's something about, oh, well, something's wrong or bad that happened in the past. Regardless, they both leave us feeling incomplete and not well. Bruno Groening also said something very interesting about us as human beings. He said the human being is and remains divine. That's a hard one to swallow. It's hard to swallow in the 21st century with all the harm that human beings are doing, all the struggle in this world, and also our own struggle. It's hard to, if we're feeling depressed, it's kind of hard to believe that we are divine. And, how about a moment when we get angry and say something mean? Well, it's hard to believe we're divine after having done that. And in the midst of intense suffering, intense challenge, that's the last thing on our mind. Like, oh, I'm actually divine, or oh, I'm actually whole. And Bruno Groening very strongly asserted that that's the truth about us. He made it very simple. He said when a human being sort of associates or takes in evil, then they have to serve evil. Every negative thing that we take in, every thought and word that we take in that's negative, he said we have to send out, put out again, send out again. So when we add all these different things up, we can begin to see that there's something sacred and whole inside of us that cannot be touched. It can certainly be covered over. There's no question. And Bruno said that the divine soul can be forced to serve evil. Not that the soul can be corrupted, but he said it can be grasped by Satan's claws. And he went so far as to say, let me find it. To save the soul, dear friends, this purely divine soul, that it is not grasped by Satan's claws. That is what this is all about. To be completely free from evil. To experience what Bruno called salvation. He also called it, I believe, full redemption, or that's the translation. I'd like to look at the German. So so we're talking about the big picture here. And of course, all of us are also, many of us are just trying to cope and navigate one day at a time, what can be sometimes a very challenging life in what can seem to be very challenging times. And the beautiful news is with this practice of Einstellen, attuning, focusing, tuning in, we absorb energy to help our day go easier, to go smoother. And in doing so, we're working towards, I don't know if working towards is the right word, but working towards our salvation, our redemption. I'd been raised in a Protestant Christian church, and they talked all about saving the soul, and so I was very turned off by that word, save the soul, salvation, just because the way it was talked about in the church I grew up with, it was just it was just belittled, because there was this idea that in Protestant Christianity, it's like, believe the right thing and you'll be saved. And anyone who doesn't have the right idea is damned forever. So I had quite an aversion to Bruno's exact words, saving the soul. Because the tradition I was raised in, to save a soul meant all you had to do is get someone to say certain words, have a belief for one moment, and that's there's something about that it seems so trivial, and and so I'd say maybe that's a religious definition. That's the Protestant religious definition of saving the soul. And here Bruno Groening offers the spiritual definition of saving the soul, to just free. And also this salvation that I was taught about, it happens when we die. Right? It was not about experiencing salvation here and now, experiencing freedom. And yet, if we break down the meaning of salvation, if we look at what Bruno's talking about here, that the purely divine soul not be clasped by Satan's claws, and let's be clear what that means, of that there's no evil around the soul, that our soul becomes free from evil. Not that we won't have challenges in life, but to not have the inner turmoil, to have the feeling of peace. Bruno Groening said, "You cannot rob me of the divine heavenly peace. I won't let anything take me out of it." Now that's appealing. I don't know a single person on the planet who does not want never-ending peace, who doesn't want to be free of suffering, much less free of disease, physical disease, but especially free of dis-ease, of worry, of fear, of anger, of resentment. We've been taught that those things are natural. Well, Bruno Groening teaches us that those are actually habits. And they all stem from one habit that's associating with evil, and or you could also say dissociating from God. And that's my understanding of that's why Bruno Groening said God has everything we need. Because, okay, let's back up a little bit. So we have this divine soul that's pure and good, that can't be tainted by evil, but can be surrounded and obscured, and as Bruno very graphically said, that the claws of Satan can grasp it. Which sounds so not fun. So if our problems stem from that, stem from again, two ways of saying it. Um, Distance from God or closeness with evil, then our solution is one. If that's our one problem stated, looked at from two different angles, then our solution is one solution. We can also look at it from two different angles. According to Bruno, we need to do both. Distance ourselves from evil and draw close to God. So what I've been talking about now is the big picture of this path. So that we know what we're after, what we're really after. Bruno Groening himself, and please don't take my words for it. This is, of course, my understanding of what Bruno Groening taught. Bruno Groening said, I want to give to you. You must know what you came for. That is what I want to give to you. So there's this funny thing of we've been miseducated about not only what we are and who we are, we've been miseducated about what we want and what will make us happy. You know, if any of the people listening are anything like me, all throughout the day, I'm like, oh, if I go on this trip, if I get this new job, if I have a better relationship, if I, all these endless ideas of what will make us happy, what we came for. And then that leads us to the question of what's our deepest heart wish? And each person needs to answer that for themselves. And it's a complicated question. We can spend our whole lives chasing this and that and this. And so I suggest, and what I'm doing is turning to God and turning to Bruno. And it's quite a humbling experience to say, I don't even know what I really want or need. Please help me to learn. Because in my moments of clarity, I know that this wholeness, this peace is everything, that it is everything. But I don't live in that 24/7 yet. And so let's, with some humility, turn to Bruno Groening, who says, he says, I want to give to you. You must know what you came for. That is what I want to give to you. So not only does our friend Bruno want to pass along this good energy, not only does he want to pass along help and healing, he wants to pass along profound understanding of who and what we are and what we came here for, what we really want and need. Because if we don't know what we really want and what we really need, our life's just not going to really work. And then that's us as individuals, and then humanity as a whole. So again, all of this is the really big picture. And then here in the conference room, Uta really wrote and highlight what that looks like one day at a time. Uta wrote, yesterday when I came home from work, I was very tired and lost most of my power. I was stressed. Then I do Einstein. Wow, for 1.5 hours. Oh my gosh, I got my power back and was more calm. So the ultimate goal is to be full and to be peaceful all the time. And I'm not there yet. I can just report that our friend Bruno was able to accomplish that. And not that he didn't get tired, but he was able to remain peaceful under the most intense circumstances. And then there's the one day at a time, tuning in, seeking God, seeking the divine energy, filling ourselves up. Until we get to that place of salvation, of freedom, of redemption, until we get to that place of being at peace, always. That to me seems like a very worthwhile goal. Hmm. Hmm. In the chat room, Gita just wrote, "Respected sir, namaste. Namaste to you, respected mademoiselle." Until we get to that place to where we live in namaste. Namaste is a Sanskrit word that means the divine in me bows or salutes the divine in you. Until we get to that place of recognizing that God is everywhere and in everything, until we're in a continual state of namaste with everyone and everything. Well, let me say this, that I believe that's our end. That's our destiny, and that's what we're striving for. Beautiful timing, Gita. Thank you so much, Uta. Your comment was just perfectly in the flow. So let's spend a little time now really reflecting on all of this. Really reflecting on the idea that God is everywhere and in everything. Really reflecting on that there's something we want. We might use different words: God, enlightenment, peace, liberation. And reflecting that this thing that we're looking for is actually everything. And that our dear friend Bruno has given us a very simple way to find it and experience it. Through tuning in, through observing our body, and that this practice of taking in this energy gives us energy one day at a time to live life well. And it's also part of the healing process. Healing in the sense of removing evil, removing negativity that's sort of covered over or obscured our purely divine soul. That while all of us want things and all of us have problems and challenges, according to Bruno Groening, there's only one real solution. There may be many paths there, and there are various spiritual teachings and traditions. However, they all sort of point to this one thing that's the ultimate solution to all of our problems. And then we have our part. We have our part to strive for it, to one day at a time to take in the energy, to one day at a time reflect on these teachings and practice them. To to one day at a time watch our thoughts and say no to the untrue negative thoughts. So to keep in mind our goal, friends, it is to be completely free, to be at peace, always, under all circumstances. And then to one day at a time, work towards that, to practice. So let's do that now. Let's spend a little time tuning in, taking in the good. All right, dear ones, thank you so much for joining in. We're going to begin our closing. We'll be doing this again in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and that'll be tuning in and then reading from quotes of Bruno Groening's. And then at 7 p.m. tonight, there'll be a silent tuning in. So I just, when I go really deep into tuning in, it's kind of hard to talk afterwards. It's such a profound experience. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. And we'll have a minute or two of silence, and then we'll bring this one to a close. We'll be back again real soon. Take care, dear ones. Thank you so much. See and feel you all very soon.